let's just dish, dudes. Let's just get into it. All right, so this happened a while ago, and it's wild. Threads. Remember Threads on Instagram and how that existed briefly?
I remember.
Remember that? And remember how everybody was like, yeah, we're going to go here instead of Twitter. Because I'm pretty sure, that launched after Elon bought it. And remember everybody was like, we're going to Threads. And then nobody ever talked about it ever again. Remember that?
I remember everybody getting their handles and then never doing anything after that.
Posting one thing and then being like, all right.
Just like Google Plus, just like Blue Sky, just like Mastodon. So this is one of those things, and then it, kind of died off by the wayside, except it didn't. It has gotten really big. So there's this graph that came out about the daily active users on, this is mobile, which is an important distinction, on Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky. Twitter has like about 150 million people who tune in every day on their phones. Now Threads is almost at 150 million. Like, it is almost there. In terms of the impact that these apps are having, Threads is nearly as big, at least when it comes to mobile devices. On PC, there's basically no presence by Threads. Blue Sky, they're like a million. Blue Sky is not having a good time.
Shout out to Blue Sky.
So this is an interesting opportunity to talk about kind of what is the landscape. So I looked across it. I assume you guys have a similar take as me, which is that I have not heard a single mention of Threads once in the past 2 years.
My take is that people are opening Instagram, a very popular app, and misclicking the Threads button 100 million times. I legitimately do not believe that it is close to the daily active users of Twitter.
Is it not its own app? You access it directly through Instagram?
It's connected to Instagram now. You have the same handle. You have a cross.
Dude, if you
but they're
think
connected,
about
you still open the app.
The number of people... Wait, is Threads a separate app or not?
Yes.
It is, but in Instagram, there's now a Threads button that can
They can click over to it, but you still have to open the
app.
app.
Out of the billion people using Instagram, it's just a bunch of them misclicking.
That is my honest impression.
No. So this is what I want to talk about. This is what I was thinking. So Threads users going way up. If you look at this chart right here, it's just been growing like crazy. The monthly active users is like double that. It's like 300 million people a month are opening up Threads. So I was looking at it. How in the fuck is this app getting insanely huge? 300 million people a month looking at it. Every day, 150 million. None of us hear about it, ever. It's not in the cultural zeitgeist in any way. And the answer is, not the entire world is America. So it turns out social media users in 2025, there's like 1 billion social media users in China. India, almost 460 million. Now, the United States, we got a lot. We got 240 million social media users, but then Brazil with 144 million. One of the countries that I feel like we never talk about is Indonesia. It's one of the biggest countries in the world. I never hear anybody talk about Indonesia ever. They have 140 million people on social media. Mexico, 90 million. Philippines, 90 million. Vietnam, 70 million. Pakistan, 70 million. These are massive, massive numbers. And so looking into where is Facebook as a specific example, getting all of their people. Well, so found this breakdown. It's mostly from Asia and South America. Out of the, so Facebook is still absolutely gigantic, by the way. It has almost 3 billion monthly active users. Like 2/5 of the world's population is still on Facebook, which even though, again, for Gen Z and millennial Americans, like nobody goes on Facebook anymore, right? And so looking at this, of those 3 billion, India has 400 million active Facebook users. Indonesia, 100 million. Brazil, 100 million. Mexico. So
400 million is more than the entire population of the United States all using.
Just using Facebook from one country. So I think what is interesting to kind of step out and remember here is that America, relative to the entire population of the world, we are tiny. And even though we don't really use Facebook anymore and we don't use Threads, Meta as a company across Instagram, WhatsApp, and Threads is really, really, really successful at capturing broad audiences across the world, particularly ones that are rapidly developing like Southeast Asia, South America. Brazil has a massive social media presence in all this. So I thought this was really interesting that Threads is actually doing fantastically well for them, just not really in a way that we care about, which is an interesting way to think about social media.
My understanding is the value per user, because these platforms run on ad dollars.
Oh, you think they're less valuable?
I don't think they're less valuable as people, but I think there's an ad dollar thing where it's like one user in the United States is worth like, I don't remember the exact numbers from marketing days, but it's like $20+ per person in terms of amount they can sell ads for it.
Yeah.
And it's like 8 cents if it's from Indonesia. They don't buy enough on ads.
Yeah.
So number of users and impact, I guess, is valuable. And this is very interesting. But like from a health of the business, it's just a lot easier to get 100 million people from somewhere where you can't sell any ads than it is to get somewhere where it's like there's a high.
Yeah.
That would be my one counter. But this makes sense to me. I mean, I guess you do not think of it that way.
Yeah, it's just like fascinating. And I think it's again like what you're talking. There's two angles. One is you objectively make way, way, way more money when you have an American audience.
Or like, or Western European.
Or European, whatever. Rich countries, right?
Yeah.
That's, you just objectively can squeeze us for a lot more of our precious goo.
I mean, even compared to Europe, right? Isn't the ad rates in the US?
Yeah, the US is like the
beating
by far the
Canada,
highest. Like,
Australia.
we just
like,
consume like crazy. We
consume like crazy.
We love ads and we buy and
We have a lot of money. We're rich people who want to buy stuff, and that's our
specifically
vibe.
Dumb TikTok ads.
Specifically dumb.
A question I have for you guys: are you residual Facebook users? Like, do you guys engage or check it at all now? Like the Facebook, the site, and then if not Facebook, I'm wondering if you guys touch Messenger at all anymore.
I kept using it for Messenger specifically for about 5 years after college, and now I am locked out of my account. I don't even have my password anymore. And I tried to reset it and it wouldn't let me. And I was like, I don't care. I just truly don't care.
Yeah, I'm a Messenger user. Because there's that period in time where Facebook was big enough.
Yeah.
And you have some friends that you just talk through that.
Exactly.
And it just sticks.
So that's what I was going to say is the US having a number that's even as high as 200 million is pretty shocking to me. But I think about the way that I use Facebook, which is basically I check Messenger once a week. And I think that's a lot of people. Like, you just have a residual use for Facebook that you continue to engage with occasionally.
Yeah.
Or things like Marketplace, like Facebook Marketplace has become crazy popular. Things that let you hang on to the site in a way that is very different from the way that you were probably using it 10 years ago. So that was the first thing that I thought of when I saw this. Another interesting thing is, I think for young people especially, the way you get into social media or end up picking a platform or signing up for is social pressure around you or social trends around you, right? A way to engage with the friends you have at school, whether it be college or high school, or something you might use for work, right? And the trend of one site being big at a certain time hits different languages and countries at different times, right? So even if Facebook has maybe a lot of the same issues that it did 10 years ago, and it's not a very good or very fun site to use, or people have phased out of it in American life, different countries are experiencing the wave of Facebook just being popular at different times. So I'm really curious, like, if you give another 20 years after this, what are the ways that all the people in all these other countries are still interacting with that site?
Right.
The other thing I was thinking about with this was the segmented nature of language or culture on social media. And this is why China has always been so fascinating to me, even growing up, was that their internet wasn't even on the same sites that I used.
Yeah.
And I was kind of excited by that. It felt secretive and cool. But with stuff like this, Japan or Japanese gaming scenes, like I came up playing competitive Mario Kart, and the Japanese scene is a huge part of that. But the world scene on the whole communicated to each other pretty much in English. Even if you were French, even if you were German, the community was a linked thing that communicated in English as the medium of exchange, right? And then Japan was pretty separate because they only spoke Japanese and they didn't mind playing with just their own community in a lot of ways. And they had their own forums, their own websites. And then eventually with Twitter, they had their own kind of sections of Twitter, right? Like there's a whole world of Japanese Twitter to interact with that you can find if you follow enough Japanese people and speak Japanese. But if you have a normal English-centered algorithm, right, you're never interacting with that. And the same goes for like Portuguese, like Brazil has its own memes and own things, right, that are totally separate from the way that the English internet has developed.
Yeah. I'd say it's funny you mentioned China and their entirely separate apps and the Great Firewall and everything. Someone said something recently that was funny to me, which is that, like, you mentioned there's like 1 billion internet users there, right? Was there?
No. 1.1 billion social media
Social
users.
media, yeah, exactly.
That's not even internet. That's people who are on these apps, which is crazy.
They just have an absurd number of people online.
It's got to be because of WeChat, though, too. I put an
the
asterisk
accounts
on that is like everything is on WeChat and you need WeChat to like live, basically. So
But it's a lot of people online and they are all completely isolated from the rest of the world, really, through their apps. Like they don't use the same apps, they don't use anything. And it's funny that the way someone phrased it was like, we think of it as they are being blocked from us. But in a way, we're almost being saved from a deluge of 800 million Chinese people overrunning they would outnumber almost every other country on every platform that we use. Like it would be,
the English audience would be secondary.
Yeah, like right now the Americans or Western is the central. Like you said.
I get what you mean. Like if you go to
Mario Kart Wii community was through English.
The examples that I would give, if you go to Twitch, if you go to YouTube, even when you account for all these languages and different types of videos, right?
Yeah.
The biggest creators on all of these platforms are still English-speaking
Yes, that's
creators
what I'm trying to say.
in general.
Yeah.
There's like a few exceptions depending on how you measure it. Like, for example, on Twitch, Ibai, super big figure, right?
massive.
There's more people with Spanish as their first language than English.
Yeah.
Like that's an enormous audience across so many countries. But on the whole, the largest consistent figures across all these platforms are English speakers. If you go look into the data, you can go take a look. That doesn't mean it's always the case in every like subcategory and thing you measure. But on YouTube, it's Mr. Beast, right?
Yeah.
And then on Twitch, it's Kai.
Well, like the idea would be if the firewall was down, it would be Chinese, the number one, based on the number of people.
And you can go do this. Something I do think is interesting about Chinese websites is that they block people from going to websites that they don't approve of. But most of these Chinese platforms are things that you can access as an American. So that's the thing I would do growing up. I found out like what are the big Chinese like YouTube-esque and like streaming sites. I would go like browse YY and Douyu and like see what the fuck do they stream.
Yeah, there was a phase for a bit where
work?
everyone was going on Zhao Hongshu, which is like their Instagram, Pinterest hybrid. It was like a trend. Everyone was going there. Right?
And then I remember I made a QQ account growing up because that's how you could make a Chinese League of Legends account. And then I used a fake Chinese passport number to make my Chinese League account and then played 300.
We're trying to go to China, not get banned from it.
I played
Aiden.
300 ping Chinese League.
Yeah.
And that's why they let me in
Xi
and not
Jinping
you.
hated your fucking support. You were terrible.
They're going to look at your KD ratio and we are banned if it's not
They're going to look at your
positive.
toxic chat messages. You were raging
If they
at
see
your
you
team.
inting a single time.
我们不是朋友。
What's